My name is José Franca. I'm a professor at the Instituto Técnico of the University of Lisbon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you today. For over 25 years or so, I've been concerned with the challenge of bringing knowledge to the market for many different reasons. One of the most important reasons in my country, Portugal, is to create the opportunities for young people to pursue professional careers based on the advanced knowledge they developed within the university context. What I'd like to share with you is three topics that I think are relevant for the context of this conference, and I think hopefully will address many of the concerns that all of you have. First of all, I'd like to touch on the topic of the green investment thesis and how that fits what I would consider the normal trend of investment in the financial markets. Secondly, I'd like to give a few examples, just really a few examples of something that I've been doing at IST for the past 4 or 5 years, is to develop an entrepreneurship course. And what I'd like to share with you is something that comes a bit as a surprise to me, is to see students in areas of electrical engineering, computer science, aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, and so on and so forth, really concerned with issues that are related to the theme of the conference: climate change, fight on waste, sustainability. Then the final part of the presentation, I'd like to address the paradox that has been brought to our attention very recently by President von der Leyen regarding the relationship between money and science, as she put it. Maybe to try to discuss and to understand where these issues could be, and then also to discuss what could be done to address those issues. I know this is a very challenging issue. I do not pretend to understand all implications of the issues and to know all the possible considerations that we need to have to address the issues. But nevertheless, I'd like to share with you what I think and what I've been thinking for already a number of years. Investors have theses. And the investment thesis is what investment partners propose to their limited partners when they are raising capital. Basically, this investment thesis sets the guidelines and the strategy that define how investments are deployed, how companies are selected, supported, and then exited. And these investment theses look at different ingredients. They look at the verticals, could be healthcare, fintech, space, cybersecurity, many others. They look at who is the target, people, companies, whether the target companies develop business to business, business to consumer, business to business to consumer models. The amount of capital that is needed and the size of the investment that investors can do. Possibly ownership, whether investors are happy to stay with a minority position in the company or whether they seek something else. And of course, the size of opportunity, what it means for their investment, and especially what it means for the expected return of the investment over a certain period of time. So this is known. Over the years, investment theses have evolved based on disruptions and trends. And we see here more recently in the what I would call the electrical engineering, computer science area, the trends of the microprocessor, the personal computer, the web era, and so on and so forth. And very naturally, the investors follow these trends because it's in the wave of these trends that they find the opportunities to deploy their capital to support the companies and hopefully to be successful. Years ago, we started seeing a new thesis being emerging, what we can call the green emerging thesis. This investment thesis is basically driven by a number of concerns that resources that are available to all of us on Earth far outpace the capacity of the Earth's capacity to produce and even regenerate them. Concerns that it's critical to balance supply and demand of those resources at the global level. Concerns regarding how we could possibly re-engineer the economy in a way that addresses the green concerns while at the same time pursue significant benefits regarding the environment, society, and the economy at large. And there are big challenges, there are great opportunities, and there will be innovators and capital to match. Some of the ingredients of those the emerging green theses have to deal with war on waste, how waste can and should be redefined, how waste can and should be reduced, processed, used, how we share assets that not long ago were considered personal assets, how do we look for longer time life of the things that are consumed, how we could possibly regenerate things that are used. As a matter of fact, is looking at Earth as a living entity that, as all possible living entities, could be prone to regeneration actions. And of course, how we can somehow significantly reduce the use of plastic in the economy. If we look at capital indicators over the past recent years, we see things that are very encouraging. We see that in capital markets, in indexes tracking the performance of stocks clearly indicate the above average performance of green-related capital indexes. We know that significant amount of capital has been deployed and is being deployed to focus on climate change, clean water, waste management. And in more recent years, we have seen significant activity going on in the context of ESG, environmental, society, and governance concerns related to how companies are governed and develop their activities. All in all, the emerging green investment thesis addresses a broad space for actions, from the development of culture, habits, and practices among people, companies, and institutions alike, to pursue innovation as a fundamental society endeavor to stimulate entrepreneurship, and how capital can and should be mobilized in order to support all those actions. I'd like to share with you very quickly some of the examples of what I've been doing recently at my school. I run a course on entrepreneurship and innovation. It's a mandatory final year course of the master degree program in electrical and computer engineering. And it is also an optional course of the master degree programs in aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, biomedical engineering. And it is also an optional course for many Erasmus students for more than 20 countries that over the past 4 or 5 years regularly attend this course. This course has one goal, and the goal is really to foster entrepreneurship from start to end, and let the ideas of students to flow freely, autonomously, in a way that they can imagine, design, and structure the creation of their own startups. The ideas are totally free. I used to tell my students, there is no right or wrong. I can provide information that helps them to contextualize what they want to do, to make them understand whether that could be, the ideas could be more or less plausible to see them executed. But at the end of the day, the students do whatever they want. And what has been interesting over the past maybe 2 years or so, 3 years, is from students that I would expect to be particularly concerned with the background knowledge that they have been developing in their courses, be it in electrical engineering, computer science, aerospace engineering, and other areas of engineering. As a matter of fact, they show significant concerns regarding the environment, the sustainability of the planet, and the social implications of what we do. And very quickly, I'd like to just give you 2 or 3 examples of that. One example, and these are all startup projects that have been defined by the students. And of course, here I'll just show the main theme that has been at the base for the creation of their startup projects. 3D printing is widely used. It uses print filaments, and there is a significant waste of those filaments that represent a significant amount of money that is wasted, besides the significant amount of material that is wasted and not reused. And one of the startup projects basically redesigned the 3D printing process in a way that makes use of recycling 3D printing filament that otherwise would be wasted. Interesting thing is that I learned that people recycle more when they know what recyclable waste becomes. And this is very, very, very interesting, because if we really want people to look at waste in a different way that I have learned to look at for many years, it's interesting to consider that we should give people a good reason why they should do that. Changing habits related to the culture development actions that need to be pursued and supported. the idea of using app-based gamification programs in order to support the changing of habits. The concern with the reduction of carbon footprint. And we know today that it is possible to track the carbon footprint of people on an individual basis based on the financial transactions that they have. And there is a database of information that connects the financial transactions, the type of financial transactions that they do with the estimation of the carbon footprint that they generate. And thereby, by tracking this and making sure that people know what they are doing and how what they are doing impact the carbon footprint in the planet is obviously relevant. War on food. There's a significant amount of food that is wasted. This is known, is a problem of what I would call the Western world. It has tremendous economic implications, as we all know, and social implications. And as a matter of fact, over the past 2 to 3 years, I've had a number of projects around this topic and different types of ideas that are being pursued and structured, defined, and designed as a startup project to address. Okay, so it's encouraging because at the end of the day, it's the people who are today in the university, among others, of course, that will be the fundamental seeds of change for the future. So I personally think it's really very encouraging to see that young people in their 20s, early 20s, are fundamentally concerned with the fundamental issues and challenges that we all have for our future. Let me now jump to another topic, which is the paradox between money and science. And as we have, I'm sure we have all heard or seen not long ago, President von der Leyen saying that we have to look at the way that we use money to generate science, and we know that we are good at doing that. But of course, there is a growing concern how we could and maybe should look at ways of using science to make money. And this, in the words of President von der Leyen, is something that we in Europe at large have a lot to do to improve. It's a circular sequence of activities that take us from money to knowledge generation and back to money. At the core of this is people, as always. It's all about people. There is hard work, high standards, there is creativity, there is inventions. For most of us in the university world, there are publications. From knowledge to money, we have to adjust, we have to adapt, keep working hard. We have to look at customers, we have to look at solutions and to address global markets. And if this circular sequence of activities works well, there will be a normal snowball effect. More knowledge produces more money produces more knowledge, and so on and so forth. So in its essence, this is quite easy to say and to understand. The issue is it's a lot easier to be said than done. And I'd like just to spend a couple of minutes with you to try to understand from my point of view, why it's that so. And before I dive into this, I'd like to tell you that I did my PhD at Imperial College many years ago, started a research group, was obviously very much concerned with publications to be among my peers in the world. And then I started a startup in the semiconductor industry. And believe me, none of the publications that I've produced, and I've produced quite a few of them, has been useful for the purpose of serving markets through the development of the startup that I have created. Putting it maybe in a little bit aggressive way, it was fundamentally useless. All the things that I have produced in form of written knowledge and information for the purpose of addressing the purpose of the concerns of the market. And so trying to understand what is at stake. I mean, in R&D, we, of course, develop and generate knowledge. We create inventions. We train people. That's part of our mission. But the market does not necessarily need that, or at least does not need that in the original form, because the market has problems, and the market has needs, and the market needs solutions. And the issue is that the R&D normally does not address a market problem. Or when it addresses a market problem, it does so with a non-marketable technology because of cost reasons, because of complexity, because of usability. My experience has been this. As a matter of fact, all the scientific research and work that I did around a very specific team, I knew that fundamentally what I was doing could be useful for the market. The problem is not in the way that the way that market looked at the usability of the knowledge was not exactly the same way that I looked at the generation of that knowledge or the publication of that knowledge. And as a matter of fact, looking back, I understand that the way that I was addressing market problems through R&D work were either very costly or very complex or had very significant challenges regarding the usability. So as a friend of mine once told me, when I started the startup and I asked my friend, what should I do to understand what market wanted? And he asked me a question. Do you want to know the market? And I said, yes, of course. Then go to the market. And going to the market is something that in general, at least in the space that I know well, we don't do very, very often. But it's exactly that what I did at the beginning of my startup. I spent most of my time in the market, meaning meeting companies, talking to people, understanding their needs, and then, of course, understanding how I and my people in the company could work hard to address those needs and those problems. So in a nutshell, I would say that what market needs is not the information or the knowledge as we generate it is transferable, but more how we could use the knowledge that we have in order to address the market problems through processes of knowledge transformation. And in my own experience many years ago, when I was addressing the market by going to the market, and the people that I was meeting used to say, José, this is very nice, congratulations, well done, but you know what? We don't need that. we need something different. And of course, my reaction to that was, I can do it. But the I can do it would mean that I would have to work very hard with all my colleagues to make sure that we would be able to transform all the knowledge that was actually appreciated and recognized, but to put it in a form that could actually be usable by the people that we wanted to address. Coming to the end of this talk, I'd like to address something that I think is an important point, at least to look at and to consider as a possible solution among many others of things that could be done in order to address the challenge of making sure that the knowledge that we produce in our world of knowledge is better aligned with the market that we want to serve, or that we should want to serve. It is well known in the entrepreneurial world and the investment community that a very healthy investment pyramid requires a very strong foundation. The pyramid, you can put very names on that, different stages of development. I mean, companies, startups are once again living entities. They come alive. They are kids. They are children. They grow up. They are teenagers. They die. They become adults. Put the names that you want, but at the end of the day, this is the process that needs to be followed if we want to get to the top of the pyramid. And at the end of the day, what matters is that we get to the top and not necessarily that we stay at the bottom. The bottom is an instrument to get to the top, but the bottom in itself, it's not the purpose of why these things are done all over the world. And the building of this pyramid is based on the very fundamental principle that the deal flow generation, meaning the number of ideas, projects, startups that get into this process of constructing the pyramid, this deal flow is critical for the quality of investment. And it's very simple. The more I have, the more I can choose from. And in principle, I would be able to use that as a driver of quality build-up. Along the process of building up the pyramid, there are two things that always go hand in hand: risk and value. Risk is higher at the bottom of the pyramid, value is higher at the top of the pyramid. And also hand in hand, although with different forms of spreading around the world, different countries, different regions, there is deployment of capital, both public and private. Typically, by definition, public capital is deployed whenever there is a need to address a gap coming from the deployment of private capital. And that also happens in the investment community, entrepreneurial world. And again, these gaps are different. They are, I think, well identified in Europe in particular, as they are whenever capital is deployed. Now, the point here that I want to make is that the construction of this pyramid, where we can see the first layer of the proof of concept, starts after the knowledge is created and the knowledge is generated. So it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? So there is a huge amount of knowledge underneath that is not seen. But what we see when that knowledge comes to life is already a proposal, even if it could be an initial proposal, of how that knowledge can or could or is aligned with the perceived market needs. But the fundamental issue is that the alignment is not necessarily done in the best possible way with the market needs. So the point here that I'd like to argue is there could be a case for starting the build-up of this pyramid below the surface in a way that is fundamentally immersed in the R&D space, and where actions to align better the activity of R&D and the market could be pursued. And it is argued that a healthier investment pyramid should require a much stronger foundation where that activity of R&D and the market are better aligned. And as throughout the investment pyramid, the deployment of public and private capital to build stronger foundations for the investment pyramid should be done based on the perceived assumption of risks from the point of view of public capital and private capital. Now, I think the idea is simple to understand. If we want to create value out of assets, value being the market and the assets being knowledge, we need to know well those assets and how those assets address the market that we want, where we want to create value. And I do believe that it could be foreseen, it could be imagined, a program specifically designed to address the perceived structural weakness at the basis of the pyramid. And at the end of the day, the purpose of that would be very simple, is to make sure that we could align much better, much earlier, the generation of knowledge with the market value that could be created out of that knowledge. This cannot be done, I argue, based on the structures and the environment that we are all familiar with. I believe that this needs to be done with layers of knowledge, layers of experience, layers of management capabilities that are typically not available in the R&D space as we know it. So I do believe that industry must be in to reduce time to market, reduce risk and access industrial expertise. Skilled, experienced professionals should be available according to the different stages of the knowledge development and so on and so forth. One last word regarding something that is critical, we all know, and is challenging in the space where knowledge is produced, the university space fundamentally, which is how performance is evaluated. And again, leaving here 2 or 3 notes for discussion. I do believe that it would not be possible to significantly increase the knowledge to market flow that hopefully we understand it's critical. If market value is perceived second-tier priority in the performance ranking in the space where knowledge is produced. And I do believe there are more balanced evaluation criteria, and above all, better defined and aligned career incentives may have to be carefully revisited if we want to fundamentally change the way that we develop, stimulate this knowledge to market flow. And the final idea is whether double-track careers could offer a possible solution to an otherwise very challenging and persistent problem. I know that. So it's a challenge worth pursuing, I believe, because the benefits that we could take out of that are enormous for all. Thank you very much for your attention.